How's everybody doing? James, I see you. Feet up. So we're going to do something different because it's the last speech of the day. I think your brains are leaking out of your ears right now, so we're going to get some energy in, and then we're going to get sitting back down, and then we're going to do some storytelling. So everybody stand up, put your phones down. This is something that I used to do back at Zoom when I was onboarding hundreds of people, and I promise you it works. By the way, this one single pose that we're about to do is an equivalent of 1 cup of coffee. So if you're like me and cannot drink coffee, definitely try this on your own at some point. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring your big toes together, slight sliver on your heels, bring your hands to your hips, and then neutralize your hips. So we don't want the cheerleader or the cowboy situation, just neutral hips. Roll your shoulders over, relax them, hands up. Okay, let's take a big breath in. Big breath out, relax your shoulders. One more big breath in. Again, relax. With the next breath in, expand your arms up to the sky. With your exhale, relax your shoulders, pinkies towards one another. Another big inhale here. With the exhale, cactus out your arms, bring your shoulder blades together behind your back, and arch as much as you're comfortable. Look up for a second. We're gonna take 2 breaths here. Big inhale, big exhale. One more big inhale, another exhale. Next inhale, arms up. Exhale, relax, and just shake it off. How are we feeling? A little bit better than before? Okay. Thank you. James, you can put your feet back up. You're good. So we're going to talk about the power of storytelling. And the reason why this is really important to me is because I haven't been a really good storyteller all my life. I've been in sales, I've done enablement, and I do really good with stats. I come from biochem background. So to me, numbers, analytics, and all that stuff is second nature. Stories, not so much. Then I figured out that, oh my gosh, I need to tell better stories so I can really inspire people, right? Who wants to do that better in general? Who can improve on that? We all can. I still do. So if you have any suggestions, I would love to hear them after this. But let's take a look at this. So now you're thinking, okay, we're in sales enablement. Everybody has been showing us stats through Gartner and all that stuff. Where do these brown pelicans come from? And we're going to talk about the story of them, and you're going to understand why. So let's talk about brown pelicans a little bit. They fly in flocks. You know, there's a lot of them. They're in groups. They're really smart and fascinating animals while they're up in the air. When it comes to the land, though, they might look a little goofy. You're like, this bird is kind of funny. They can spot fish from heights up to 65 feet, and they're only raptor to hunt cooperatively. Now, I'm like, these animals are freaking amazing. And here's the story of brown pelicans in Chesapeake Bay. So these animals have been naturally hunting in Chesapeake Bay fish. That's what they hunt. And at some point, what happens there is that the fisherman builds their business, and obviously the fisherman is bringing flocks and flocks of fish together to the bay. And then all of a sudden, these pelicans are, oh my gosh, this is great. We are able to eat, and we don't have to hunt because we have the fish that's being brought to us. So you have generations of fish, or generations of pelicans, has fish brought to their plate pretty much, served on a platter after generations of kids and kids of pelicans. And they're like, oh, this is great. We can just be lazy. And life goes really well for these pelicans for a while. Then they introduced some pesticides for different environmental needs in this bay, and it's causing some eruption with the nature. And the fishermen cannot fish there anymore. So the fishermen moves from Chesapeake Bay to another bay. Soon after that, natural conservationists, they observe these pelicans are getting skinny, they're getting sick, they are actually dying, and they're endangered species at this point. And everybody's thinking, what is happening? Maybe it's just this like pesticide that's going on, or maybe there's another bacteria. What do we do? And then soon enough, they figure out these pelicans who are natural hunters, and in groups they do that really, really well, they got lazy. They forgot how to hunt, okay? So when they figure this out, the naturalists say, okay, what do we do? What do we take the pelicans to this new bay that the fisherman is? And how hard is that gonna be? Do we bring the fishermen back? We cannot do that because they were taken away for a reason. And somebody says brilliantly, why don't we bring in pelicans who are out in the wild, who still know how to hunt, and integrate them really effectively into the society of these pelicans that we have in Chesapeake. So a couple of things can happen. Pelicans in the Chesapeake Bay can really teach the new wild pelican, this is the lay of the land, this is where you sleep, this is what we do, and this is how we talk, whatever they're doing in their pelican lives. And then the new pelicans can teach the older generation of pelicans in this specific bay how to hunt again. And this is just a theory, and they decide to pull the trigger and do this. Guess what? The new pelican comes in, they teach the older generation of pelicans how to hunt really successfully, and the older generation of pelican really invite them into their community effectively, and they're no longer endangered species. So I heard this story, and all of a sudden, in my mind, I started doing this really weird morphing thing. Imagine this pelican picture with your AE face in the middle of them. Who can start seeing that? I can see some smiles, right? It's happening. Who are our sailors? They fly in flocks. They can spot opportunities from 65 feet, if not even higher. And they're natural hunters. And in some organizations, especially in the startup world, or if it's just a really big TAM, they kind of forget how to hunt, right? They forget those natural instincts. And so that means that we have actually this pelican situation in our world, right? And we observe this every day. I see some heads shaking. And this is why it's so important to be able to tell this story. So, a couple stats for you. I'm going to actually tell you the stats after the story. One is 9 in 10 executives do believe that there is currently skills gap in their organization, or they believe that they're going to be observed in the next 5 years. Okay? So this is the pelicans. There are pelicans they have the skills gaps. And then 375 million workers globally might have to change occupations in next decade to meet their company's needs or different companies' needs. What does this mean to us? What does enablement do? We just talked about, we close these skills gaps. By the way, this is in CB Insights. If you want to read more about that, you can go there and get more information. We close the gaps. We run programs to onboard effectively. We run programs to be able to effectively tell the stories, really evangelize the DNA of the company with the existing reps, and then we integrate the new reps, and then we from there drive the productivity. I mean, essentially that's what we really want to do. So I'm going to tell you a couple of the challenges, though, while we're doing that, we're facing. Number one, upskilling at scale. This is really hard. So if you have, let's say, a 40 go-to-market employee company, this becomes a little easier because you have a small group. But then as you go from startup to scale up, which a lot of you are a part of, this becomes really, really challenging. Then you have the problem with integrating the new employees, because you just brought these flock of new pelicans, let's call them the pelicans, and they know how to hunt, and maybe you just ran the best onboarding program, but if you're not really bringing the pelicans in the existing community along the journey, guess what happens? This new hire goes back to work, they start shadowing, and then somebody says, oh, they just taught you this, but we've been doing it this way forever, so you don't have to do it way. Like, who has experienced that before? Let's show hands. Yes, it just happens. And just put a smile on, and then you say, can we please talk about this? And what does that really mean? And managing change, okay? So the only constant right now is the change, right? In any company that you're in, I don't believe that there is no change happening. There's change happening, and this change is happening massively, it's happening quickly, and it's gonna continue to happen. So it's really important for us to understand how we really integrate that into our everyday business as enablement. So then, this is the question that we ask to the businesses that we're a part of, right? What if there's a strategic function, not a checkbox of running a program. It's a strategic function that eliminates these top 3 challenges, because these top 3 challenges are universal and they're going to stay there, right? So I'm going to tell you the stories about how we've done that at Zoom Video Communications, Fivetran, and Milio. There are three main topics that we're going to be taking a look at. One of them is the integration with the onboarding. The other one is scaling up with the go-to-market programs that Timmy shared. There are multiple names for that. I like to call that the role excellence. And then the change enablement is the coined term that I have, and then we can talk about that too. So, success story and how I got there without just telling the metrics. Let's talk about that. I started at Fivetran after Zoom. And our VP of sales told me that, hey, I'm going to be in Dublin the time that you're going to be starting. So guess what? I would love you to fly out to Dublin for your first day, and I'll meet you there. So I'm like, oh, great. Sounds amazing. I traveled to Europe with Zoom quite a bit, so I'm like, this is no big deal. Turns out there's a big storm in Denver. My flight makes it out of Colorado, and his flight doesn't. So I'm here by myself with the Denver crew, Dublin crew, and like, you know, it's a WeWork space, and I'm like, this is great. I walk in, and then I just am like, okay, let's make the best out of it. I'm just gonna schedule meetings with every single person there and get to know them. And I scheduled a bunch of stuff, and then this guy kind of walks in randomly, sits right next to me, wearing jeans, white t-shirt with like a really loose collar, and says, hey. I'm like, howdy, great. And he goes, do you want to go chat outside? And I'm thinking it's one of these people that I scheduled the meeting with. I'm like, oh yeah, let's go. So I get out of the space, and he's like, I'm George. And I'm like, I'm Patek. And I go, how long have you been here for? He goes, I'm George, the founder of Fivetran. Like, shit. So I go, wow, you look a lot younger on your LinkedIn profile. So he goes, I'm going to go and chat this to the entire company. So we actually kicked it off really good. George is one of those people who really loves stats. And immediately we bonded. Obviously, he was like, this girl is okay. You know, if she can pull this off, I guess she can pull off enablement too. Maybe that's what he thought. And so what happened there is that we started doing sales enablement. It was 40 people. And just like the Pelicans, our challenge was we're going from startup to scale up. So that means going from 40 headcount to about 200 headcount in less than a year. And we had to do that in a very effective way. So we started doing some onboarding programs that really integrates the employees effectively. But while we're doing that, we're really utilizing the existing employee base to to keep the DNA of the company and that culture part of everything. And that's actually really challenging. It's not an easy task because, again, you got to bring everybody along the journey. You got to bring buy-in, and you also have to teach or give the confidence to the existing people. Like, these people are not replacing you. You are here to really scale them up, and they're also here to show you maybe some of the skills that you haven't observed yet, or we even don't have internally. So this is a win-win situation we get to do together. And we do this so well for sales, then our COO comes up to me, and obviously we have great measurables. Time to first quota, time to meetings, productivity conversions, and so on. So we were able to show the data along the line. And our engineer, VP, comes to me and he says, whatever you're doing here in sales, we need this in engineering too. So I want you to go to our CEO and talk to him about the fact that you can do this for one group and you should do this for the engineering team too. I'm like, great, I got this. I got all the stats. I go in front of George and I'm like, George, look at all the stats that we're doing for sales. Now, Mal asked me if we can do the same thing for engineering, so I just need a head count. Who would have thought at that point you would have gotten that head count? I kind of did. He's like, get out of here in so many words. So I'm like, where did I go wrong? I went wrong because I'm thinking George is really analytical. He wants the modern stuff. He wants all the stats. I gave him all the stats. But what I didn't give him is the story of why this program is a scale factor and how it's going to scale also engineering, which we definitely needed at the time to stay competitive. So I went back to Mel and I said, we need a story. We need to build a story like this Pelican story. So we started taking on some individuals who are doing a really good job, and we started creating like evangelists across the organization, champions who tells the story. Then marketing was on board, support was on board, Mel was on board, and at the time when I was not at the table, they were at the table presenting me. So you don't always have to be at the table if you're able to tell the story and you get other people to tell the story for you, right? That is so important. So then they're talking, and then George calls me and says, we need you to do the same thing for engineering. When can you get started? I'm like, great, let's get going. Let's get the head count. So that's one way. Storytelling is important because of that. That's one way that you're gonna get what you need, by creating the story, because when you're not at the table, when you're not in it, or when as people move on from the organizations, stories still stay, right? That's how you create villages, countries, religion, like the biggest sales out there, right? So they do the job for you, the stories. Another example that I'm going to give you on is scale up. So let's switch gears to Milio. We go into Milio, and I'm like, okay, in the past I've been a VP of sales and marketing. I ran organizations, 200 people. I own portfolios with AT&T, British Telecom, TELUS. I can do all this stuff. Like, I know how to manage a group of people. But I don't know how to build a case for ongoing enablement and getting the headcount for so many people that we need. And again, I'm going back to the fact that how do I do this? By taking the right approach. Now, I learned from the Georgia example, just by showing the stats, you don't always get it. I need to create some champions in the organization, and together we need to co-author the story. This is also another really important topic. I will tell you, if you're new to enablement, or just any position really, co-authoring is the key to success for you. Because if you just do it yourself, and if you don't bring the others with you, and if people cannot understand your story, then you're doomed. You're just gonna be failing. I can tell you this very confidently. But if you do this together, if you co-author with your partners and you select the right partners and you bring them along the journey and you're creating this great story together, then you actually have a tribe that supports you, and then you get the resources. And that's what happened at Milio. I got there, We had 3 people. None of them have done enablement before, not a single person. So I said, great. It's another challenge on top of the challenge that we have, and we can figure this out. When I first started enablement, I didn't know about it, so I'm pretty sure these people are capable and we're going to do amazing things, and we did. So what we did was very similar to Zoom. In Fivetran, we had to first prove ourselves. We said, okay, let's figure out what program is the most important for the organization, and we execute the heck out of that so that everybody starts talking about that. Then once we earn the right to ask for more, we can go and ask for more. So what that looked like was our onboarding program. We said, great, we had to scale up really fast. Again, back to the original story, we had to bring in flocks of pelicans, we did. And then we really integrated them well into the organization. Same thing, they said, great, you're doing this amazing thing for go-to-market, now we want you to own the entire customer-facing teams. We said, amazing, we need more headcount for that. Awesome. One thing led to another. Within 6-month period, we went from 3 people headcount to 10 people headcount within 6-month period. And all it took was a simple scientific solution. And again, I'm biochem, so I'm going to go back to the science a little bit with this story, is that you clearly define an initiative or a program. Then you execute this program, or you define the program with your tribe. Then you execute the program with your tribe. You communicate the program outcomes with real KPIs, and you do that by yourself. You enable the others to tell your story, tell them the story very clearly so they can emphasize it within the organization. And then you document the opportunities to improve, and then you continue to improve. That's just the key to success. So we've done that at Milium. And another funny story, our CEO, we had a Christmas party in New York, and this was like COVID was coming right back. So I'm like, oh, this is great as a company. We're all gonna get COVID and not gonna be at work for 2 weeks, which is what happened. But we were like, okay, we're gonna do COVID tests in the morning, and then we can go to this party. It's gonna be great. We did. Having drinks, rooftop. Luckily, it was a nice night in New York in December. I don't know how that happened. And then our CEO comes to me, and his name's Matan, with his really cool Tel Aviv accent. He's like, so Patek. I'm like, yes, Matan. How did you go from 3 headcount to 10 headcount? I'm like, well, what did you hear? He goes, well, Shai came to me, and he told me that he needed more headcount for your team. Bor came up to me, he told me that he needed more headcount for your team. Daphne came up to me, she told me that she needed more headcount for your team. And you never once talked to me about this, and all of a sudden I see that you're getting this headcount, and the other budget approved, show me your secrets. I'm like, well, if I showed you, you won't approve them, so that's not gonna happen. No, I'm just joking. I said, well, it's a business need. So we were able to tell the story to the right people with the right metrics. They were able to then speak on my behalf, and now it's a strategic organization, right? We have content people, we have instructional designers, we have business alignment, and all this is built because few things. This is really important. I took the time to understand the business leaders' needs very clearly, and I challenged them. So when they said, we're gonna be growing, I said, well, how much are you really gonna be growing? And what does this growth mean? Does this require scale? Does this require just remaining where we are? We just keep doing it, but just reiterating, like, what does that really mean? And it's kind of an uncomfortable conversation, but when you do that, you also get a lot more buy-in because they know that you're really looking out for their best interest too, right? Another thing is co-design and OKRs. We talked about why do you fight to really get in with a RevOps person, right? This is why you fight for that, because when there's an OKR discussion happening, which is a very business-related outcome, if enablement is not on that table, it's really hard for you then catch up. And then when the organizations are building their OKR, if you're not co-authoring your OKRs, then enablement OKRs really don't carry as much weight. But if your OKRs are shared, and objective and key results, by the way, is what OKRs stand for, then you can really own that together because it's on their paper too. It's on their metrics too, and that's really important. So that OKR alignment is key. Other thing is QBR. So when you're co-authoring at the beginning, you also get a right to ask for their buy-in too, to say, this is your initiative as much as it's enablement initiative. So what are you bringing to the table? Are your managers on board? And if not, how do we really get them involved? So these are some of the really important ways that you can do that. And managing change. So this is a role that I implemented at Milio because, again, we talked about this. Change is the only constant. And just quickly about that, the organization, who thinks their organizations lead change really effectively? No, I'm not surprised. One person. Good for you. Can I please speak with you after this and get your secret sauce? Because I've never seen that happen. Perfectly fine. This is not happening effectively. One way that we can influence this as enablement is having a person who owns program management. I recommend looking for someone with that specific background and have them, again, have a seat at the table, own the program, and really manage the program from end to end by figuring out how do you do Six Sigma or whatever program that you're choosing to do. And when you do that, you actually get access to every part of the organization because key initiatives are rarely just revenue. They involve finance, they involve HR, they involve security, and so on. So you can absolutely do that, but you gotta have someone dedicated on how to do that. So all these together, there are some key achievements that we got to as a part of Milio. We now have over 90% ramp quota attainment for over a year. We never missed this before, which is amazing. We implemented our ongoing role excellence program, and we got the resources that we needed. We implemented Gong. We created OKRs around this because, as you know, leadership buy-in and their scale is the most important for retaining the attention or attainment of the program. And we had 130% increase in leadership coaching. This was the key to us being the group who goes and takes this program to the others in the organization. We again got asked on how to do this, and we're like, great, we'll do it. Again, if you give us more headcounts. And again, I mentioned this, we went from 3 to 10 headcount. And all this could have happened because we had the right story to tell with the right numbers. But modern selling is not everything. If you just go there and shove stats down the throat of people or just the information, it just becomes one more information load. And that's not a way an employee can retain that. How do we evangelize that? How do we enable them to create the story and then tell that story over and over again so they can be successful is the key to our success. And we gotta do our own dog fooding. So if you believe that this is a good thing, then we gotta go do that just like in sales, we use this to get our own resources. And that's it, and thank you. Sorry, I only have 2 minutes for the question.
No, that's perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So amazing. All right, we have about 1 minute and 45 seconds for a question. Does anyone have a burning question for Petik? Awesome.
I'll just yell.
Okay.
I'm curious how you measured that, how you got the 130% increase in coaching. How did you measure that? What did you measure?
Yeah, we actually use Gong mainly because cold coaching was something that was just done ad hoc at the beginning. And our VP of sales or go-to-market was claiming that coaching is happening. So we said, okay, let's benchmark and then implement the program. And then after we implemented the program, we did 2 things. One of them is just a bare looking at how many calls were actually being coached on. The scorecards are being filled up. And that went up by 130%. And we also saw the actually scorecards being filled out effectively too, because each part of coaching we created scorecards, and then we saw those scorecards being actually utilized. So, and we utilized our Gong rep to help us keep up with these, and then we were going to use this for our QBR, so we were really on top of it because it was our joint OKR. Yeah. What other questions do you have?
Any other questions?
And if not, I get it because it's the end of the day. And you can always find me on LinkedIn.
I'm curious, how you got people to tell a story? Like, what was the... Thank you. How did you get people to tell your story on your behalf?
So that goes back to co-authoring, right? When they reached out and they said, we want to do this, and I said, great, what do you want this to look like? Let's figure this out. What does good look like for us? Let's just go and imagine this. So we imagined that together with the leaders that were asking for this. And they got really inspired because the stories are, again, the closest thing, as you said too, Andrea, to living in the moment. And that's what we can remember. And as we were co-creating this, they were living it. They were imagining the success of their teams. And it became really their story, not my story. So they really internalized it. And because of that, they were able to share that because it was their story. And I was just a byproduct of getting the resources that we needed to support them. That's really it. But that's the key. Whenever I created the story, that never happened.
All right. I think that's a wrap.
Let's do it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well.